wait a little bit for people to join, because normally it takes a while when a live stream is set up that people will join as well. But we are at 6:10 in the morning in London. The city is just getting awake and we are going on a tour for Harry Potter film locations. We see things where Spider-Man has been filmed, some Marvel movies, but also some classics. And we will start at Leadenhall Market. But before we start, I need to make you aware that there is a quiz going on. There will be 5 questions asked on this tour, and the winner, there are not even one winner, there are 3 winners in total that can win something on this quiz by performing really well on this stream. The only thing you need to do is, when I ask a question, answer it properly. And of course you will see this typical London highlights as well, such as the London buses. My name is Sven. I lived in London for the last 7 years, and we'll start here at Leadenhall Market. So let's walk around. So Leadenhall Market is used as a backdrop in a lot of movies, and one of them is Harry Potter and the Order, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. This is the starting point where Harry was walking around with Hagrid to Diagon Alley. It's the first moment in the movie where Harry was introduced to the wizarding world. Here he was still a muggle. So this is an original market. It started on this place like 800 years ago, in the 1300s, when the Romans were living here. This was the central place in London where meat was sold, and all the Romans would come here to get their fresh meat. And then in 1800 it was constructed in this beautiful building, and this is the exact spot where Harry and Hagrid were walking around. So let me show you. If I walk a little bit further here, you can exactly see how that shot was used. Because before he got to the Leaky Cauldron, which is the cafe, if you remember, where Hagrid would go, then he would walk in and he would tap like 3 times on those specific stones, and then the gate would open to Diagon Alley. This is just before that. So they would be here. You put you down, guys. And you can see here Leadenhall Market, and now let me get the image out of it. And this is how it was in the movie. So you can see the arch over here. It's exactly that arch over there. And at that time they closed down this whole area and they made it as a set piece for Harry Potter. And that happens very often here in the city. A lot of places sometimes where you walk, out of nowhere a set pops up, especially in weekends, because the city of London, where we are at the moment, is mainly meant for people to work. So during Monday and Friday a lot of people are coming in here. But Saturday, Sunday, this place is deserted, basically as it is at the moment when we're walking through. It's just empty. And that brings me to question number 1. So pay attention, because question number 1, if you want to win a prize, and the best 3 of you will get a prize, is: with who did Harry walk on Leadenhall Market to get to Diagon Alley? So I will repeat that question once more. With who did Harry walk on Leadenhall Market to get to Diagon Alley? And I love that you guys are participating in the chat. Unfortunately, my Russian, my Cyrillic, is non-existent. So if you have any questions during this tour, if you want to say anything, you can, and I will get into your questions, but please ask them in English. And in the meantime, it's a bit sad because there's some construction work going on here. But also here is a place that was the Leaky Cauldron. So you saw from here. It's the white entrance. It says London Migraine Academy. But that's, at that time, was painted dark blue. And that would be the entrance to the Leaky Cauldron. And that's exactly this building over here. This door would be the entrance to the Leaky Cauldron. They turned the inside into a whole cafe. Now it's just a medical clinic. But that was a cafe at that time for the set. And then in the backdrop you will find then the entrance to Diagon Alley. I will repeat the previous question once more for people who forgot the question already. And that's, with who did Harry walk on Leadenhall Market to Diagon Alley in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone? So the specific street name, I'll find it out for you in a moment, but this area is called Leadenhall Market. So that's the name of this market that we're walking at the moment, with history that dates back 800 years ago, when this place was still part of the Roman Empire, and this was the main city center at that time in the Roman Empire, within the Roman city walls. And then in 1800, that's when they converted this into this beautiful building as you see at the moment. And if we look at the other side of the street, you'll see the Cross Keys. It's a new building, but in 1666, that's when that place was used by William Shakespeare. And William Shakespeare is a famous writer, poet, theatre maker in the UK. He wrote, for example, Romeo and Juliet. To be or not to be, that's the question. But in the backyard of the Cross Keys Inn, there was an old theatre. And in that time in the theatre, people would be standing in front of the theatre. There were no seats. That's basically for the poor people. They would be standing there. But if you had a bit of money, you could pay a little bit more and go up on the balcony to get a better view. And let me see in the meantime, because... So, the question is how old I am. That's a good question, and maybe people want to give some guesses in the chat, and let's see what you guys come up with. And before we reach the new spot, I will tell you exactly how old I am. So, in terms of smoking in London, there are no things such as smoke rooms. If you want to do a smoke, you can't do it. See that are the London buses there passing by. So if you want to smoke in London, you need to go to outside basically. We don't have in cafes, bars, specific rooms where you can smoke. And it's not allowed to do it in closed public environments. And you can see the city is slowly getting awake. People are boarding the bus, going to their work. But I haven't seen the right answers yet in the chat. No, I'm not 22, I'm not 21. And thanks for the person who thinks I'm 60. No, I'm also not 60. So at the moment, it's 6:20 over here. 20 past 6. I want to see some more guesses of the age that you guys think that how old I am. 26, we're getting closer, but no, not 26 either. And we've almost reached the next place, which is, you see that big pillar over there? That's the monument. And the monument, 30, almost. I'll tell you, let's get this truck passing by. I am 29 years old. almost 30, but not yet. I'm 29. But monument is this building. You're able, as a tourist, to climb all the way to the top for a view if you want. The entrance fee is around £5 to climb up. But see it at the moment. So you see big buildings, wide streets. At that time everything was made from wood, very narrow streets, and there was a very big fire that happened. At the moment it started at 5 degrees, it will be around 13 degrees. But the Great Fire started around the corner from here, and that destroyed the whole city. The whole city was burned down, including St. Paul's Cathedral, where we're walking later. But this monument is 333 meters high. And the reason for that is, if you would put this monument flat on the ground in that direction, then you see there at the corner, that's where at that time an old bakery was standing, where the fire started. So putting it flat on the ground would result into the exact spot where the fire started 450 years ago. That big building, so that here is the monument, and as I said, you can climb it to the top. You can climb the building all the way to the top to have a view. And yeah, those big buildings were not here in that time. It was all wooden, very narrow. You can imagine if a fire spreads, it's very difficult to escape, because besides it's narrow, could have been as narrow as here, the passage in between. And sometimes also wooden cars standing, people with their goods, market stands, everything was just popping around on London, so it was very difficult to get around the city, and especially when a fire was spreading. And from here we are walking the Tower of London. A lot of tourists are coming to London and they think about the Tower of London, but they're asking people, how do I get to the Tower Bridge? Or how do I get to London Bridge? No, it's not a pre-recorded video, so you can ask whatever you want in the chat to learn more about London. And I can ask a question, and I can try to answer your question. But if you would go to London Bridge, to be fair, you can see it at the moment, it's a pretty boring bridge. It's a bridge that gets very busy in the morning, between Monday and Friday, when people are going to the office, because on the other side there is a big station where people would get into London to get to their offices on this side of the Thames. But London Bridge was the first bridge that connected the north side of London to the south side. So this would cross over of the Thames. Also in 1666, this bridge was very narrow. There were houses on both sides of the bridge. It was made of wood. So again, that one was destroyed by the fire. And people would try to destroy the bridge on the other end, so at least the fire would not spread all the way to the other end of the city. And guys, you're lucky. It's at this time of the year, sunset is happening. Sunrise is happening, sorry. Sunrise. So you see the nice orange glow right over Tower Bridge. And that's Tower Bridge in the background. So don't get confused between London Bridge and Tower Bridge, because that's Tower Bridge. And Tower Bridge was used in the movie 4. There was a scene of fighting going on Tower Bridge. It's used in many movies, but also a more recent movie that has been shot on Tower Bridge is Spider-Man Far Away from Home. So let me show you how that looked like in the movie. If I would like to visit Russia, if you would visit my YouTube channel, then you would see I have been to Russia. I have been to St. Petersburg, and I have been to Moscow, and they are beautiful places. I really loved my visit to Russia, and we have here. This is the Tower Bridge, and this is how it was used in the movie of Spider-Man Far Away From Home. The final battle in the movie was shot on the bridge. And also, in terms of Harry Potter, if we turn around again into that direction. In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, they were flying over the Tower Bridge into the direction where I'm standing now, and you'll see HMS Belfast, which is a famous Second World War ship, or warship from the Second World War that fought at D-Day. And then there's the town hall as well, and that's all used as a backdrop in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. So whilst I'm walking to the other side of London, to the south side, then I want to ask you the second question. So if you're in for the prizes, pay good attention. But name another movie that was shot on the Tower Bridge. So I want you to name a movie that was shot on the Tower Bridge. Yeah, I would love you to take you to Tower Bridge. It's a beautiful way to cross to the other side. Unfortunately, I only have an hour here, and from here to walk. Let me show you just that side, because it's way prettier to look at that area now with the sunrise. But to walk to that side, it'll take you around 20 minutes from here, and this area is very beautiful. Also at night, you can see all the lights lighting up from the north side. If you walk on the south side, to see the city at night, and that's in front of us is the Shard, and the Shard is Europe's tallest tower. It's the tallest tower in Europe. There's a viewing point on top. There is, and in terms of answers of the questions, I'm not sure. Alifia might be able to explain, or your teacher might be able to explain where they want you to post the answers. But I don't think you should post it in the chat, because that will mean that your peers will have the answers as well, and you want to win the prizes. But yeah, there's a viewing deck on top of the Shard that you can visit. It's £20 to visit. There's some better viewing decks there just for free. You don't need to pay anything. There's some restaurants up there. Then there are some offices below that, and there's a hotel in as well. So we're crossing to now what is one of the oldest markets on this side of London, or maybe even the oldest market. That's where we're walking to at the moment. And if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to ask them. And we can do some last time with this beautiful sunrise in the background. It's just way nicer that way. Sorry for my... We're really lucky. We're perfectly here with sunrise. And yesterday we did some tests. Yesterday we also had some beautiful weather, but the days before it was raining a lot. Because London, most of the time it's gloomy. And gloomy means that it's cloudy. We have a lot of rain. And yes, 2 days ago we even had the Sahara sand from the desert in Africa all the way blowing into London. So it looked a little bit orange in the city. I wish I could take you to Hogwarts, but Hogwarts was just a set piece. So they didn't use a real building to shoot Hogwarts. You can go, if you go outside London, there is the Harry Potter film studios, and there's some set pieces left where you can visit the Great Hall, and you can visit Dumbledore's office, and you can visit the house where Harry grew up with his aunt and uncle, and you can visit there's some of the costumes and stuff are in there as well, and some of the artifacts they used. So yeah, that's like that would be the best place to visit if you are into Harry Potter, the Harry Potter studios. But unfortunately, at this time, at 6 in the morning, they're closed. How much did you like Harry Potter at a 10-point scale? So Harry Potter, I personally liked it a lot when I was a child. I read all the books. I watched all the movies. I watched them several times. I read them all several times. And I love the fact that even if you get older, Harry Potter is for all kind of ages. Doesn't matter how old you are, it's still a story that's good to be told. And would you like to study at Hogwarts? Maybe that's a good question to ask in the chat. If you were studying at Hogwarts, and this one is not for the quiz, so we can answer them in the chat. If you would be studying at Hogwarts, in which house would you like to be in? Would that be Gryffindor? Would that be Slytherin, Hufflepuff, or Ravenclaw? In the meantime, I'm passing here a church, and this church is a church where William Shakespeare, we know him again, Romeo and Juliet, to be or not to be, that's the question. He is buried into that church. And that's just right to Borough Market at the moment. And Borough Market, at this time, we are just a little bit too early. If you come here an hour later, then the market stand. Oh, we have one person who's not a fan of Gryffindor. Wondering what the rest thinks of that. But if you would come here just an hour later, people would be standing, setting up their market stalls. This market here, and you can't imagine now that this would be a marketplace. It's empty. It's right below the rail tracks. But this market started in 1300. So that's 800 years ago that they started the market here. And it all started because people were setting up their stalls on the bridges. It was blocking the streets, and then the city decided, no, we need a central space where people could sell their goods. Oh, we have a Hufflepuff person, Gryffindor. But yeah, they would be setting, the city decided we need a central space for people to sell goods. So they decided to do that here. And then that's where the market started. At that time, and that's even till like the 1800s, 1900s, at that time it was more a wholesale market, which means most of the goods sold. Let's wait for the train, like it might be a bit loud in the background because, as I said, I'm walking under the train track. But you can see people setting up their market stands. But till 1900s, this was a wholesale market, so restaurants would come here to buy their stuff. But nowadays it's more a consumer-facing market. And it's early morning. Let me see people setting up for the fish stand. And in terms of have I ever seen real actors of Harry Potter in my life? No, I haven't. But if you walk around London, you would see regularly just some actors walking around, and you would randomly stump into a movie shoot. I cycle through some parks on my way to work. Regularly that park is used for movie shooting. So the Tower Bridge was built in the 1800s. And then the London Bridge that we crossed, the current version, was built in the 1900s. And whilst people are setting up for their goods, we are currently at another location that was used in the Harry Potter movies. So in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, you might remember that crazy bus ride that was going on. It was crawling down the streets in London. That bus could transform into different ways. It could make itself smaller, longer, all the way to get through London traffic. And in the end, it arrived at the Leaky Cauldron, and that was this building over here. That was used as the Leaky Cauldron. So you see, over the course of the different movies, they use different locations for the same place. So this is the street, how the bus arrives. So that's this bridge over here. You see here. That's where the bus would come in. It would stop right in front of that building over here. It would go in there, and then the next shots where Harry was sleeping in his room before he could finally go to Hogwarts was sitting right on the top room overlooking the train tracks. So he could see from there the train tracks of London, and then I could see he was waiting there before he could return to Hogwarts. And if you want some lovely oranges, they have some lovely oranges for sales at the moment. But whilst we're walking back to the Thames, having some beautiful views over London again, it would be good to know, what is your favorite Harry Potter movie? Or which book of Harry Potter did you like the most? In the end, there were 8 movies. So it would be good to, well, if you count Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2 as a separate movie, of course. But it would be good to know what your favorite Harry Potter movie is. And whilst we're walking to the Thames, getting away from the hustle and bustle of the market and the sound, when you walk around London, there are different places with some street art. So on this bridge, we'll have some hearts. Lovely painted by the local community, some local artists that can paint on these walls, which will give you a beautiful, different perspective of the city. Chamber of the Secrets, we have one, which was the great movie where we had that snake underneath Hogwarts, where Ginny was locked up into the chamber and Harry had to come in, got the sword out of the sorcerer's head to kill the snake in the end. In that perspective, some of those Harry Potter movies are a little bit violent in that way. A lot of killing going on, the killing of a snake. So Chamber of the Secrets. For me it's difficult to decide which one is my favorite. It might be The Prisoner of Azkaban. It was kind of a dark, the first time that Harry Potter really went a little bit more darker. The first movie is a little bit more fairy tale like. The second one is still pretty friendly. And then it became all dark with the Chamber of Secrets. And we're turning here into Clink Street. And Clink Street is, because before I go into the direction of London's oldest prison, let me... Yeah, Dietmar Artemov is a good actor. But before we go to Clink Street, just want to show you one other thing. And that's, well, here's some old remains. So this were the ruins where in the past the Great Hall was standing. Not the Great Hall from Hogwarts, but it was founded in the 12th century and it looked like this originally. This is how it looked like in the past. So this was one of the largest and most important buildings in the medieval time in London. It was a palace built to comfortably house the bishops. So it was a religious place. And then on this side we have he was a very convincing Igor Korolev, like, sorry for pronouncing his name probably wrong. Was he not a Bulgarian actor? But he was really good. But this is it's not the original ship, but it is the Golden Hinde. The Golden Hinde was a ship built in 1577. It was an old warship that was used by Francis Drake to sail around the world, and his task was to sail to South America and find another way and sail around it from Europe's perspective and see what's on the other side of South America. What is there? How does the land look like? Are there any routes that we could take that makes trading faster at that time? I know there's a lot of controversial things going on about that time period, but it's not the original ship, I'm afraid, but it's a replica. Yes, I will show more of the city views. So this is the Great Hall that we passed, the remains in the street, where right in front of us is London's oldest prison. It is a prison that was here since the 1100s. It's a place that saw a lot of torture. They saw a lot of torture. There were innocent people as well in that time. Like, people would just be sentenced for a crime they never committed. So that here in the bottom would be where the cells were located. You will be put down on the away from society. Now they made it an interactive museum with a skull hanging. But it is one of the most notorious medieval prisons in that time. And in terms of which character I like the most, Harry or Voldemort, to be honest, you can't have a movie without both of them. I think you need to have both of them to make them interesting, because Harry is of course the good guy, the one that we could identify with, the one that we want to be, and Voldemort is the evil person, but Harry wouldn't be Harry without Voldemort. And talking about street art, I always love these paintings here. Someone eating a bowl of noodles. But also, we were talking about William Shakespeare, the famous writer. And Shakespeare here is painted on this wall in his traditional dressing with a skull. And that would show you that, like, Shakespeare is around everywhere in London, and especially around this side of London, in this area, because there are a lot of theatres here, a lot of churches where he went, and then he would come here to do all his writing, his theatre performance, testing his latest things. And we're getting back to the city side. And you're asking me the questions about Hermione or Harry, Voldemort or Harry, but I want to know your opinion. What are your favorite Harry Potter characters? Because, of course, I'm a guy. Hermione was a great character in the movies. And this pub, yesterday, and that's why it's still a little bit wet on the ground. Yesterday, there was a famous celebration going on. It was St. Pancras Day, which is a celebration from Ireland. And what you'll see is that a lot of people from outside London are coming into London, going to Irish pubs, going to pubs like here to celebrate that celebration. So the whole city was colouring green. Green is the official colour of that celebration. And they're just drinking, dancing around. And we're back at the Thames side. So the bridge we see, the bridge underneath there, so the second bridge right there, that's the one we just crossed. That's London Bridge. And we're now, you can see in the distance over there, Oh, not the smoke, but there. That's St. Paul's Cathedral. That's also being used in Harry Potter. That's where we're getting closer to there. And then Draco Malfoy, he was also a good character. It's funny how, if we all talk about Harry Potter, we all have a different preference. We all love different houses. If it is Slytherin, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Gryffindor, also the characters. We also all have a different favorite character. So it's quite amazing how J.K. Rowling created this environment with all those different characters. And then if you look here, this is the area where we just came from. That's the city of London. And Londoners love to give their buildings strange names. So, for example, there's a small building in behind the church. That's that one over there. The small one over there. That's called the Gherkin because it has a gherkin shape. Then we have another one. This one. I would love to know how you guys would give that. What kind of name would you give that building? So Londoners would give that building the name the Walkie-Talkie because it looks a little bit like the walkie-talkie. But in the end, it's on top there is a garden, Sky Garden, which is free to visit. You need to make a booking in advance. 2 weeks before is when the spots open, and they're normally being taken quite quickly. So if you don't book immediately, your spot might be gone. But then you could go up and have a great view over the city for free. And if you don't have your booking in time, then you could always still visit one of the restaurants or bars up there. So we're now crossing those bridges. And if you walk in London under the bridges, pay attention to the different art pieces that are around here, because this gives you an idea about some history about the city. It says, "Behold the liquid Thames now frozen o'er, that lately shipped mighty burthen bore." Some poems about the old time showing how important the Thames was at this time, and even nowadays, because of the River Thames, that's how this city could grow how it is nowadays. The Romans came in here first, built their harbors, and from that moment all the goods could come on this place of the city easily by river, and you need that mode of transport. And it's funny, where we're walking now, like if you would go back in the Roman time 800, 900 years ago, we couldn't walk where we're walking at the moment. This was all still river. And if you would go a bit further, like now what they did, this area now, most of the things under here is just rubbish. It's all the kind of things that we will find in a river, all the rubbish that we humans put in there are just laying underneath, and they built the city on top of that. But look at that view, that's like there's the city of London behind the bridge. And then enjoy the morning. It's good to go out in the morning when the sun is just rising and people are just not awake yet. And then we're getting almost to one of the most important theatres in London history. And coming back to Harry Potter, I'm curious if you guys... So I'm wondering if from Harry Potter, if you would like the books more, or do you like the movies more? Have you read the books, or have you only watched the movies? There's, for example, no idea how to say hello Russian there. I should have paid more attention when I was in St. Petersburg and Moscow. But there is now also a Harry Potter theatre performance in London. It consists of 2 parts, which means when you visit that theatre performance, you will watch one part of the performance the first day, and then the second part of the performance the second day. And it's a very interesting way how they told the Harry Potter universe story in that theatre performance. It's about the kids that Harry and Ginny got, and Ron and Hermione. They got some children, and they are performing in this Harry Potter performance, and it's really, really well done. If we turn around, this is the Globe Theatre. It's not the original theatre. The original theatre was not even standing here. It was standing originally a couple of hundred meters further back, because as I said, this was still riverside. But this is the old Victorian style theatre where you have a circle in the middle. That's where the people would stand. And then you have balconies on the side where if you pay a bit more, you could sit or stand in those balconies, get a premium ticket. But it's mostly made famous by Shakespeare. So Shakespeare tried his performance first at the theatre at the Cross Keys Inn that we passed earlier, and then his big performances would be held in this theatre. So all the big plays that you know of, Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, all the others, they have been performed in the Globe Theatre. And that brings me to question number 3, and that is, the Globe Theatre was the main theatre of which famous artist? So let me repeat that once more. The Globe Theatre was the theatre of which famous artist? Yeah, there's always a discussion, are books better or are the films better? Some people love the movies because they can just watch them, and some other people would prefer the books because it's your own imagination. For me, the books are better because that's how I knew the story first. I read the books first before I saw the movies. But I can imagine if some people only watch the movies and they're still brilliant. This big tower here that you see is the Tate Modern. And the Tate Modern is a modern art museum in London, free to visit. Most of the big museums in London are free to visit. And what a lot of people don't know is that you could walk up or take the elevator up to the roof of this big tower and have a free view over the city of London. So even if you don't like modern art, if you find that too abstract, you could still get up this building just to have a brilliant view around the city. And we're now going to cross this bridge. This bridge is Millennium Bridge. And maybe before I cross it, might be even better to tell the story here, because also Millennium Bridge has been used in several movies. There are some, for example, there's the Marvel's The Avengers. They have used this bridge as a backdrop of one of their planets. And also Harry Potter used this in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. The Death Eaters were flying around London and they destroyed this bridge. So this was the movie shot in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, where they used the computer to animate the destruction of this bridge. So that's this bridge in the background. It's quite a recent bridge. It's built around the year 2000. And then in the Avengers movie, they used the same bridge, and it looked in this way. So that's how you can use the same bridge in a different way. And we are going to slowly cross this bridge. I'll let you enjoy once more the last pieces of this beautiful city, because we have only 15 minutes left of this tour. And I still don't know if you guys prefer the books or the movies. But in the backdrop you will see St. Paul's Cathedral, and St. Paul's Cathedral has not been this way all the time. Like this way even better, because you will slowly see St. Paul's Cathedral appearing from here. But it hasn't been like this all the time. I told you before about the Great Fire of London and how the fire destroyed completely that other end of the city. But people thought, because St. Paul's Cathedral was one of the few buildings that was completely built of stone, except for the roof. The roof was built from wood. But people thought, because it was built of stone, that it would be safe there from the fire. So they stored everything inside in the church. But instead, even the roof caught fire. And that made also this church at that time destructed. Let me see this. If I see Dima Artemov, I will say hello. But again, the city. And another way how this bridge was used was in the movie Paddington. So if you'd see here, this is where Paddington would be standing. Nicely with St. Paul's Cathedral in the background. And they would use this bridge. And that would bring me as well to the last question of the tour. And then I will repeat all the questions once more in case you have missed any of them. And then listen in the background the sound of St. Paul's Cathedral, the bells. That means it's now 7 o'clock, 7 in the morning in London. Waking up with the beautiful sound of the bells of St. Paul's Cathedral. But the last question of the tour is, name another movie that was shot on Millennium Bridge. And I see you only got 4 questions now, so there's another question related to this bridge that I will ask you later. But name another movie that was shot on Millennium Bridge. And whilst you're thinking about the answers, see the sunrise. We are having a beautiful day in London. You're lucky to do the tour today, because this is not happening often. With the city in this way, you see the Tower Bridge in the far distance that we just passed, London Bridge that we crossed before, walking over the South Bank side. There's the Shard in the distance. And then we have the very last question of the tour. Which bridge was destroyed by the Death Eaters in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince? So which bridge was destroyed by the Death Eaters in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince? Now we have the seagulls passing over as well, so you might just hear them as well. So I will repeat once more all 5 questions that you need to answer, and you might win one of those prizes. But rather than looking at me, if you would go, by the way, if you continue your walk, if you're ever in London, you continue your walk in that direction, you can just walk all the way next to the South Bank, and then you will reach the London Eye, which you can slowly see appearing in between the buildings over there. there is the London Eye. I'll give you one more moment to enjoy the sunrise, and then I will repeat the 5 questions that you need to answer. So question number 1 is, with who did Harry walk on Leadenhall Market to get to Diagon Alley? With who did Harry walk on Leadenhall Market to get to Diagon Alley? And question number 2. Name another movie that was shot on the Tower Bridge. The nice bridge we see at the moment on the background. Name another movie that was shot on the Tower Bridge. Question number 3. The Globe Theatre was the main theatre of which famous artist? Question number 3. The Globe Theatre was the main theatre of which famous artist? Question number 4. Which bridge was destroyed by the Death Eaters in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince? And that's the bridge we're walking on at the moment. Which bridge was destroyed by the Death Eaters in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince? And then question number 5. Name another movie that was shot on Millennium Bridge. Name another movie that was shot on Millennium Bridge. So our last spot of the tour will be where St. Paul's Cathedral is. And St. Paul's Cathedral, as all the places in London, has been used in many movies, but also in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and Harry Potter and the other, and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. It was not the outside of the building that was used. You just can't see it at the moment, it's just blocked on the left, but there is a clock tower on the left, and the inside of the clock tower, that's where the fortune classes were held. So it's just becoming visible on that side. You can see the tower over there. Inside that tower was where fortune classes was held, and Hermione, she is more a science-based person. She doesn't like fortune telling, and she was very frustrated at her classes, and she took the crystal ball and pushed it down the stairs. And those stairs where that crystal ball was falling down to, and also the stairs that people walking up to that fortune telling class, were the stairs inside St. Paul's Cathedral. But other movies that have used St. Paul's Cathedral was, for example, a Mission Impossible movie, where there was a running scene going over the roofs of St. Paul's Cathedral, going to the other side. And it is said that the actor, Brad Pitt at that time, for that movie, he broke his ankle while he was shooting that movie. He broke his ankle during that running scene over the roofs of St. Paul's Cathedral. Another movie is, for example, the front of St. Paul's Cathedral has been used by the movie Paddington 2, where an old woman was feeding the pigeons. And at that time you could still do that, but nowadays I wouldn't recommend to feed the pigeons because they carry all types of bacteria with them. They're a little bit vicious, a little bit aggressive as well. And also the fighting scene of Thor started in front of St. Paul's Cathedral. So he came out of the universe, landed in front of St. Paul's Cathedral before some other locations have been used in London where that fighting scene happened. And whilst we are slowly finishing off the tour in front of the beautiful St. Paul's Cathedral, are there any other questions you have about London, maybe? Or about Harry Potter and film locations they used? So if you're ever here and want to see some more Harry Potter film locations, of course there's the famous platform 9 3/4 that has been shot at King's Cross. If you would go to King's Cross, they have made a platform and 9 3/4 next to the Harry Potter fan shop. Don't be confused, because this platform 9 3/4 is not the actual one they used in the movie. They really literally went to platform 6 and 7, I believe. So if you would walk up to platform 6 and 7, if you're lucky enough and the gates are open, then you can see the platform 9 3/4. And we just get our first blossom as well. It's beautiful, very pretty. And other locations in London that you could visit. St Pancras Hotel, right by King's Cross as well, has been used in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, where Ron and Harry took the flying car over to Hogwarts. So the backdrop there, that building, is St Pancras Cathedral, St Pancras Station. But if you still have any questions about London or about Harry Potter, or you would like to know more about me, then please still let me know, because we still have around 2 minutes left on this live stream. That's why I will walk to the front of St Paul's Cathedral to show you just the last bit where I was talking about, where 4 and Paddington 2 were shot as well. And maybe whilst we're doing that, I'll repeat the questions once more. And also, if you look up, so if you look up to St Paul's Cathedral, it's difficult to see on camera, but on top of the building there, it's difficult to point, but on top of the building there, on the very, very top, there's a pineapple on there. And you might wonder, why would you put a pineapple, a golden pineapple, on top of a church? And the reason for that is, when they built this, the new version of St Paul's Cathedral after the Great Fire of London, they wanted to show how rich the city is, how well it would prosper, how rich it would become. And the pineapple was at that time a symbol of being rich. And what even happened was, people could borrow pineapples from shops. They would pay a little bit of money to the shop, then they would rent the pineapple for a day, then they could put it at home, and then they could show off to other people who visit that place that they are rich, because only rich people could afford pineapples. That was a very luxury good at that time. And now we're getting at the front of St Paul's Cathedral, which might be a good spot to finish the tour, unless you still have any questions left. I would say all the best in Russia. Make sure you answer the questions correctly and win one of those prizes, and we'll see each other hopefully in Hogwarts.